This is the Inside segment. I'm Harold Fisher. So it has been a bit of a rough day in the news. We've been sharing the latest information with you. We've got that barricade situation in Southeast D.C., of course, that violence in Kansas City, but it is still Valentine's Day, a day of love and affection. And we're going to end this day on a much more positive note. Tonight we are talking about love, black love, new black love, mature black love, and how to really harness the power of it in your relationship. My guests are Bashae Williams, licensed psychotherapist and author, and Michael and Gabrielle Young, married for just 6 months. Now, you can X me on H. Fisher, WHUR, or you can find me on Instagram at Harold T. Fisher. So thank you all for coming in and sharing with us. I want to ask you, how's it going after the first 11 months of marriage?
We're blessed.
Yeah.
Truly, we're blessed. Like God has provided, like all of the things that we've been provided with, in just the 6 months that we've been together. It's been, especially with son on the way. So
Hey,
Yeah.
that's right. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. An unexpected surprise, but
Yeah,
welcome.
yeah. So we're blessed, and we have a great community around us. So
Yeah.
it takes a village, right?
And
so,
a lot of ups and downs of like in terms of just like getting used to our different styles and like ways of being. I'm a lot more like this structured person, and he's a lot more like laid back.
Yeah.
So learning how to like, I don't know, meet each other has been definitely like the main thing that's been hard,
challenge.
but I find that we've both been really like flexible, so it's been able.
So it's been
Yeah.
But, you know, Michael, you're 25.
Yes, sir.
Gabrielle, you're 23.
Yes.
Most people would say, wait. You know, you're too young. I'm sure you've heard that.
Oh, absolutely.
What do you say to people who said you're too young to get married?
I think, well, so I think we're all drawn to what's traditional. If you go outside of that, then, you know, obviously people are going to have a problem with that. But I honestly, I think that's, you know, that's where the best things in life, you know, the best moments in life happen, and that's where you end up being where you're supposed to be. So for me, I think how we came together was absolutely divinely led. I don't think it was just, you know, I don't think it was, exactly. There were a lot of things I think, we weren't in a rush to get in a relationship. That's the thing too. We weren't in a rush to get in a relationship when we met. And so we were just kind of submitted to something higher than ourselves. And it brought us to this, and it's been amazing. So that's all I can say on that. I can't really. You know,
we are, of course, on this Valentine's Day talking about love. We're talking about new love. We're going to be talking later about seasoned love, but most importantly, black love on this Valentine's Day. Bashae, when you listen to them, including that duet, which just gave me butterflies because they said the exact same thing together. What do you hear?
I think the foundation is important. They're both talking about the core, and they're both talking about they met through God, right? Divine intervention, right? So we want to rely on that throughout your relationship when times get rough. You always go back to the source. I think that's important. I also noticed the eye contact that you guys had. You guys kept in eye contact. So you were checking on each other while you're speaking. And I think that's important. But when you talked about you guys have different styles, right? You want to make sure that you're communicating that. You don't just go by, well, this is what he does and this is what she does, and then you're operating without communicating the need or the necessity of change or adjusting. You guys got to keep communicating that.
Can I just say on that, just because literally I feel like that is something I personally have to work you know, as a woman, people always tell you that your husband should like, you know, like, oh, he should get you these things and be this romantic person or do all this stuff and you shouldn't have to ask for or whatever. You have that expectation. And I personally have been like working against that in terms of allowing myself to say like, well, this is what I like and I want this and maybe on this day we can do this. And instead of just like hoping he'll read my mind.
Yeah.
But then setting the expectation that like, well, sometimes I'd like you to come up with the thing yourself or whatever, but just communicating that. So I just totally agree because that's something I'm working on more myself, like towards him and going against the expectation of what it should be like and setting the precedent, I guess, you know, for each other.
Yeah. Because when you don't share, you're practicing self-neglect.
Yeah.
So you're telling yourself no, in addition to experiencing the no from him.
Yeah.
So we don't want to do that.
So how do you address that? Because, and obviously you're very young in this marriage and a whole bit, but I mean it's well known, and I'm sure Bashae can attest to this, that women always want you to read their minds. Okay.
Yes, sir.
It's like bibbidi bobbidi boo. I mean, you've got. But how do you, when she has not said something that she wants, how do you as a new husband address that?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So I think, honestly, I think if she doesn't say it verbally, look, it's up to me to just study her, right, outside of the verbal space, right. I think of it as like, I was listening to a podcast one time, and this guy was saying that, hey, I've studied my wife since we've dated, and I've kind of graduated, right. Like when you study in college, you get your associates, and then your masters, and I don't know if I did that in the right order, but right. So he had the same mentality with his wife, right. I study her, and I hope to like, elevate in that. So I'd say I just try to study her outside of the verbal space, and of course, looking up to the one who knows her best and designed her. I honestly just ask God, how to maneuver it, and a lot of times I find myself in a space where I'm kind of moving into these spaces of giving her things that I wasn't, I didn't have the knowledge that she even wanted, right? And it's because I'm submitting myself to that higher source. So.
Gabrielle, how did you know that he was the one? Was there an aha moment, or was it gradual? Because he said there was no rush to get married, so.
I say this a lot, and it doesn't sound very romantic, but I always say that I didn't pick him. I always say that, like, and I will preface by saying my mom, she asked God when she was young to just bring her husband, and that's what happened. Brought it. They didn't pick each other. It was brought together. And when I know that story, when I heard that story, I asked the same thing. And from a very young age, I was like, I love love, but I don't care. I'm not into like the whole thing. I love romantic movies, but I don't need the romance story. Yeah. Just bring me my husband. I'll marry him. If you say it's him, I'll marry him. And so I went through a few guys that I thought God was saying that's the one, but no, it definitely wasn't. But when I met Michael, one of the very first conversations that we had when we were like interested in each other, but we were just meeting, like it's a date, but not really a date, and we were talking about what we wanted in a relationship, but not about or towards each other, just in the grand scheme. And everything that he was saying, like both divinely and personally, were like on the same wavelength of what I desired. And even to the way that he was able to communicate things I had yet to be able to communicate about what I wanted, he wanted for himself. And so that was one of the initial moments where I was like, there is something else happening here that's beyond what I could have even picked for myself, And as we continued to kind of just get to know each other, one of the key factor from my mind that was like, this is what God has for me. This is what I want for myself too. Is we were able to talk about all kinds of things and hard conversations and very, and early too, like able to get deep about things that were challenging, and pointed in the direction of like, this is someone I want to be able to talk to for the rest of my life, you know? Yeah.
So, Bashae, you know what? I'm listening to what I not only hear from the two of them, but I also feel, and let me put a qualifier in this. Michael is my daughter's age. Okay. There is a maturity here that I would argue is really unique, that makes this young union seem to me to fit. Right. And I'm sure they have their silly stuff, and I'm sure, you know, I mean, you play Madden and all of that stuff. Yeah. Nobody does that. But do you feel that same sense of maturity?
Absolutely, especially in the communication. You guys are talking a lot. I do want to give y'all a cheat code though, right? Instead of guessing, right? Check in. So check in the morning, check in at night. Like, how was your day? Is there something that you would change in your day? Is there something that I could have did differently? How can I love you today? And then you check in at night. How did I love you today? So you want to really check in and not just guess all the time, right? Because part of the studying is asking questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that.
Because we love talking to each other, and I think just that's like another thing we can like talk about, and I love that. I love that.
That's good. Thank you, brother.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Let me write that one down. How do you deal with problems?
Ooh. That's a good question. Can I?
Yeah. Oh, take it.
I think because I'm the one who usually has the problem, like with, because, you know, I think I like things a certain way, and I'm working on myself being able to be a bit more flexible, or at least to be able to communicate, you know, what I don't like or what I do like or whatever. But, you know, because I'm a lot more structured and he's a lot more like loose, like whatever, you know, I find that like there, especially early on when we first moved into our apartment, I was realizing that like, oh man, he will just let things happen, and hopefully things will fall into place, and that's just like not the way that I move. And initially, how I dealt with it was like punch a wall a couple times and like try to blow it over because I needed it. I can get like a little like heated about that stuff, but I won't yell. I'm not a yeller. I don't do that. For me, like what I personally did was I had to talk about it to myself first, like have the conversation of figuring out what am I angry about, like what am I mad about, what do I expect of him that that maybe I haven't communicated yet or that I have communicated. And then I had to talk. My biggest asset was talking to my mom and talking to people in my life that I trusted, and just express to them like this is getting on my last nerve, you know, and hearing, being willing to hear a different perspective, being able to hear you're wrong about this, you're right about this. But I think for me, it was really just being able to to be honest with myself about what I'm not happy with, what I can bend and what I can't bend with, and the biggest mark was on being able to not remove, but realize the expectations that I was setting for him, that I had not communicated yet, and how to at least figure out if these are expectations that he could actually meet. If not, what can he meet, you know? But yeah, it was just really, for me, it was just learning how to be flexible and communicate and like understand you, not just with what I want, but like with who you are. But yeah.
So how do you deal with her problem?
So you answered beautifully, by the way, love. On my end, I think I understand what my part was whenever she brought a problem to me, was to always start in a place of not trying to defend myself, but taking the hits, because they do feel like hits, right? But that's a good thing, right? It's a good thing, right? Right. So I think for me it was all about humility, right? Just kind of she brings a problem, I immediately take a knee, right? I don't try to make up excuses, even if there is a reasonable reason as to why the problem occurred. But I just try to.
Eventually we talk about that, but
Yeah, I just try to, be open and just be willing to be wrong. I'd say, and that would be my advice on the, on the men's, whoever, whoever's listening.
Even when you're right.
Yeah.
Just be wrong.
Be open to be wrong.
Bashae, you've got an event that is perfect for this conversation coming up. Share that with us.
Absolutely. So we're going to be talking about the same things you guys are talking about. It's called the Stronger Together Tour. It's myself, another black male clinician, and we're doing love maps. We're giving interventions and tools for couples, young and old, new and seasoned, as you said. And we're going to have food. We're going to have drinks there. Entertainment. It's going to be fun, but we're going to give you the psychological tools that you need to sustain your marriage, sustain your relationship. So it's a lot of divisiveness out there on social media, and we want to challenge that.
So how can people find out about where and when? How can they get more information?
So you can go to strongertogethertour.com. It's on there, but it's this Saturday, and it's from 2 to 5 on U Street, 1508 U Street. Please come out.
Yeah.
StrongerTogetherTour.com.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Look, I am happy for you all.
Thank you.
Congratulations, not only on your marriage, on the baby, but I think you all are a great example for not just young couples, but you all are giving me butterflies and all of that. Thank you so very much, Michael and Gabrielle Young. Again, congratulations.
Thank you.
And look, keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
yeah.
So look, we're going to take a break. But don't forget, you can hear every edition of the Daily Drum Insight segment via podcast on WHUR.com, and you can download the 96.3 HD2 app on your smartphone and hear the program live in its entirety. Stay with us. The Daily Drum on WHUR and WHUT and Sirius XM Channel 141 will continue in just a bit. John Mons is next with the original Quiet Storm. That's on WHUR. We'll be back with this Valentine's Day, this Black Love conversation in just a bit.
WHUT is dedicating weekdays at 10:30 a.m. to bring you the best of our locally produced series, like our Arts and Artists show, Artico, our energetic music series, DMV The Beat.
Get Out. When I wrote that song, we were fighting.
And stories highlighting the endurance of the human spirit with legacy.
He used to say to me all the time, when I die, the newspaper's yours.
So remember, tune in weekdays at 10:30 a.m.
Howard University Television PBS and WHUR 96.3 are joining forces Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. as we bring you Harold Fisher and the Daily Drum live as we take you inside the stories of the DMV. We've got the experts and the people that matter most to help you make informed decisions for your family and your community. That's the Daily Drum, Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. live on WHUT and WHUR. Better together.
Welcome back to the Daily Drum on Sirius XM Channel 141 and WHUT TV. I'm Harold Fisher. Tonight, we are talking about love. We're talking about black love. We're talking about new love, mature black love, and how to harness the power of it in your relationship. Now, we continue with Bashae Williams, licensed psychotherapist and author. Joining us now are Denny and Debbie Johnson. Now, they've been married for 8 years. And you say, well, 8 years, it's not too long. But this is the second time around for both of them. Thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having us here. Good to see you.
It's good to see you, too. Wow. Yeah, yes, indeed, it has. And look,
Thank you for having us.
Hey, thank you all for hanging in there.
Yes, absolutely.
So, we spoke to some young folks.
Yes.
And did you all get little butterflies like I did? Just a little tingle in your tangle just listening to them and.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
I'm wishing them all the best of luck. Yes.
Yeah, I think they were wonderful. But
yes.
Now we're going to talk about the seasoned folks. Yeah. And I'll start again with you with this question, Debbie. How did you all meet?
We met at church.
Met at church.
Okay. I guess that's where it's happening. Church,
Yes.
church is where it's at.
Yes, we met at church.
Actually, we had known each other for a while, and doing ministry, I was an ordained deacon. She was over missions ministry, and we did a joint project together with the senior for Thanksgiving, dealing with the seniors. Serving Thanksgiving meals.
Yes, yeah.
And after
Checked in with him. Oh, how you doing?
he said, and I said, you know, I said she said we should get together.
We should get together and chat.
You said we should.
Yes, I said we should get together and chat and catch up because we hadn't seen each other in a while.
And I was like, oh, it's
A
okay.
few weeks later, that happened.
Yep.
And we kind of started dating, but just, really good friends. So we dated for 4 years before we got married. So that was a long time, which was a great experience.
Yeah,
like
it was, because we actually, I guess our first unofficial date was at Smoky Bones.
Oh, yes.
And we sat at the bar, Harold, and had a meal, had
we
drinks.
closed down the
and we literally closed it down, Bashae. We closed it down. I mean, they're flicking the lights on like, y'all got to go. And so.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Can't stay here.
Right, exactly.
So walked her out and opened the door to her truck. And when she got in the truck, I leaned in and I kissed her on the cheek.
And I ran.
And she's like, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here. And I'm
this
like,
isn't happening.
and I'm like, I said, well, make sure, call me when you get home. So make sure you got home safe. So got home, got settled. We talked another 5.5 hours.
That night.
That night, literally, the birds were chirping.
Yes.
And we both had to be at work at 8 o'clock. So it was a tired day the next day, but it was well worth it.
Debbie, why did you run? Because I would imagine when you say run, you're speaking figuratively, but maybe literally a little too.
Yes.
Why?
Well, I was older, like seasoned, and I'd already been married before, and that didn't work. But I got feelings, and from that whole relation, the conversation, the meal, having a good time, and I could feel the connection, and you get a little scared, like, okay, this isn't really happening. So I'm just going to keep my guard up and move quickly.
See, and that's an interesting thing, Bashae, because, as she said, she had been married before. He had been married before. How would you characterize love the second time around for folks who have been there, done that? Mm-hmm. And in her case, I don't know if I want to do this again, or I don't want to feel this again. What's been your professional experience in talking to couples who are in that space?
I think it reignited something. And so, but you also wanted to set boundaries because you didn't want to jump right into it, right? You wanted to take your time and keep communicating, right? You don't want to make the same mistakes that you made before. You also don't want to ignore some of the flags that you've experienced, and that sometimes we have a lot of red flags as well. So we want to check ourselves, right? So when couples experience divorce and get back together, they're a little more cautious, right? Mm-hmm. They're a little more aware, self-aware, and also aware of how they're interacting with other people.
Mm-hmm. Were you cautious, Denny, or did you already know when you? I mean, obviously something prompted you to give her that kiss on the cheek.
Well, again, having known her for as long as we did, I always admired her from afar, and
why?
It was. What? She just seemed to be.
Aside from her confidence.
She was just a really nice lady. And I mean, the conversations were always well, and it was always positivity between the both of us. Mm-hmm. We always encourage each other. And I'm like, this is different. And I wanted that to continue. So as we went along, my psyche kind of kicked in like, But then to be transparent, Harold, I was going through a very vulnerable time. My mom was transitioning from earth to glory, and I had just gotten laid off from a week away from a major promotion with Booz Allen Hamilton. And the one person that was there was Debbie. And I honored that. That was so attractive to me, that she would take the time and even go as far as saying, I don't want you to go through this by yourself. I could tell her now without getting emotional, because at the time it was a very vulnerable state. I didn't care about anything else, because my mom was leaving, and I'm at a point in my career at my peak, whereas I'm about to really take off. And then this happens, but she was right there and didn't care about what I had. What she cared about was the way I treated her. Mm-hmm. And that's a constant to this day. And it's one I pride myself on, because I consider her my gift. Mm. And God didn't have to provide that for me. So I treasure it and continue to treasure it. And she's my BFF. Mm-hmm. That's my ride or die. Yeah. And even when post my mom being buried and all, I think it just kind of catapulted to another level. And we've been inseparable since then, and that was almost 13 years ago.
Yeah.
So, real talk, Debbie. He said something that really struck me. And your sister friends will say, well, this brother, he just lost his job.
Yes.
And that's a thing.
That is a thing.
Why did you continue to stay around?
Well, I liked him. One, he was my friend, and still is. But I believed in him. I believed in the possibility. I believed in what he could do and what was next for him. I believed in him, and I was there to support. Because I think in life, you have your ups and downs. Everything ebbs and flows. So if one little bump in the road is going to make me run, I don't know. Maybe I ought to check myself. Let's consider what's really happening here, and just, hang in there, see what he does. This builds and really tells about someone's character. What are you going to do about this situation? How are you going to move forward? Because you know your situation. It's not us yet, right? It's you as an individual. And he, as a man, knows he has to pick up and move forward. And when you see that in a man, picking up, moving forward, let's keep it moving and getting on their feet, that is great character.
Let me put you on Bashae's couch, both of you.
Uh-oh.
So, just like with the young couple earlier, what do you hear in this relationship that gives you the feeling that this is going to continue to go well?
I think as the first couple, you guys have the spiritual connection. That's the foundation. The other part, when you talked about character, adversity doesn't just build character, it reveals it. Mm-hmm. So you saw him in action, right? Mm-hmm. And you guys experienced some crisis intimacy. And during a crisis, you guys can go closer, you can go further apart. And you saw the evidence of him, his work ethic. You guys already had an established relationship, a friendship. Mm-hmm. So there was nothing really to say run, it just to say monitor. Right, and so the way you guys communicated and had fun together was important, but also to trust each other in the low moments.
Yeah,
and that's so important.
Yes.
You said something that struck me, because all of these things do strike me, because I'm really listening. So Debbie said, when I asked her, why did you hang around after you were laid off, and she said, because I liked him.
He was my friend.
What does that mean to you, Denny, when you hear your wife say that she likes you?
It serves as a foundation, because she looked beyond the physique She looked, which I'm not bad at, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, you know, bam, bam, bam.
But to be, you know, I was at a very low state, and I didn't think I was good enough for her in all. And we've had our conversations, intense conversations about that, because she was established. She was well into her career. She's beautiful and inside and out. And here I am. She's like, I like you. I really like you. Mm-hmm. And I had the Charlie Brown moment. Like, it made me smile from ear to ear. And that was confidence enough to. And then she said the 4 words that only one other female has ever said to me. That was my mother. I believe in you. So that garnered even more of a presence that she likes me and she wants to be around me. She wants to get to know me more. She loves when we're together, likes when we're together. And that all was a constant crescendo that is now where we are at the love peak. And we're challenging ourselves to love more, but still like, because I still like her. I still like being around her. I still like conversing with her. I still like all of these things with her, because bottom line, Harold, I think she completes me.
Talk to me about the chemistry and the compatibility. I've always said they are two sides of the same coin, but they're not the same thing. Right. But I seem to see both chemistry and compatibility here.
Yeah, I think that was huge what you said, and a lot of men don't experience that I believe in you, right? They gave you that extra push to not only improve your state of life, but to also show up better for her. So when you're setting that goal for each other, the chemistry is orchestrated, the chemistry is intentional, right? Compatibility, you guys are working towards that, and it's not by happenstance. You guys are actually paying attention to each other, and you want to continue to show up for each other. You're talking about liking it. How can I like you more? How can I love you more? What do you need from me? How can I show up for you more? Those are important questions, and it sounds like you guys are doing the work.
So,
thank you.
So now I'm going to get into your business.
Okay.
Debbie, are you getting out of this what you want? And how do you know?
My marriage? Yes.
How do you know?
Because I wake up every morning very happy.
This is a family show.
Yes.
So just,
you know, I am a top of the morning girl. Good morning. It's a great day. And he plays a good part of that. God first. We always have God first. God is the center of everything for Denny and I. And I'm happy. I like the way things are going. We, of course, plan for things, and we have, all the strategic planning for your marriage and for the year and all of that stuff. And we enjoy life, and we travel. I mean, everything. I'm happy. So, yeah, I'm getting it. I'm getting exactly what I want. Yeah. Everything doesn't have to be perfect. I don't have to have millions in the bank and none of that, but I am happy. My soul is happy. My soul is happy first with Jesus Christ, but my soul is happy. He brought me a wonderful mate, and I'm happy.
So before that kiss on the cheek when you were going to run, what was your mindset about remarrying, if at all?
I don't think I gave it much thought. Like, it was like, oh, you date, you meet someone. But it wasn't like high on the agenda. I didn't have like a list. He got to have that wasn't going to work out.
But was remarrying on the list at all?
I think it was probably there. I think it's a part of every woman's kind of DNA. We're always thinking about it. If you're single, you're thinking about, oh yes, I'd like to be married someday.
So
At that time, I think I was career focused. And
yeah, there's that.
God focused
Right.
and ministry and yeah.
So Denny, how did you know that this was the woman you wanted to marry? Was it that? There's a story there. Was it that kiss on the cheek, or was there another moment, an aha moment?
It's a model of consistency for me, and what I mean by that, it was the conversations. And everything was intentional about us, from our conversations, from when we decided to do things together, and I liked her, and I'm like, this needs to be elevated. I'm getting used to this. So it went from a constant to I enjoyed it, and I knew as a man, I knew I had a lot to offer, and I wanted to offer it. May not have been at that moment, but I knew I had a lot of love that I wanted to give, because I never saw Harold a good example of marriage and all. Growing up in Detroit, my mom, it was pretty much my mom and I. I have an older brother, 10 years older, but he was off in college doing his thing. My mom went through a bad state of affairs with my father and all. So I always knew that I wanted to make sure the woman I'm with, I offer her more than what my mom did not get. So that was important. That was most important to me. So as we went along in our friendship and it started blossoming, I said, oh yeah, I need to ask her. And by the way, I asked her 4 times.
Yes.
I asked her 4 times.
4 times. And
I asked her 4 times.
I wasn't, I was like, oh, okay, we'll see about it.
I knew.
Okay,
But then it came into
and then one Sunday.
It was one Sunday after church. We came to an agreement. And we both, it was almost like we proposed to each other. But the conversation, we're standing in the island of the kitchen. See,
we went to church, and when we came back to my house after church, we were standing in the kitchen, and I was making a cup of coffee, cup of tea, and he had asked me time and time again, and I was like, oh yeah, we'll get there, we'll get
so
there.
So what was the resistance?
I don't know. I was just, maybe I was weighing it out. We dated for 4 years, and I was weighing it out.
Yeah.
That could be the fear,
yeah.
Right? The boundaries. But that one Sunday, and we were in the kitchen, and I said, you think we should get married? He goes, yes.
Yes.
Finally.
Were you playing hard to get?
I was just kind of, I was processing all of it.
You don't think so?
I don't think it was hard to get.
It's a big decision.
Because I knew she loved me. At that point, I knew she loved me. And I knew it was going to get there. I think it was a bit of a boundary deal and a processing, whereas I think it was kind of surprising, like, wow, this is actually happening.
Yeah. And he goes, should we get you a ring? I was like, yeah, that's jewelry. We'll get it later. Whatever.
Because I feel bad because I didn't have a ring to.
And see, and that's interesting because, again, is that the more seasoned kind of attitude? Yeah, the love is more important than the ring.
Right.
And
we've done that before. We've had the ring before. I much rather have us being present in the process than a ring that signifies what it looks like. I want it to feel real. And I think you were being present to the process. You weren't ready to rush in. You were still evaluating. You were ready. You were ready.
But one thing, Bashae, what we did do, after I did the resounding yes, we prayed.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. This is not the time, dear.
It's always a time.
It's always a time.
It's always a time.
And it was very deep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And intentional.
Yeah.
And that said, got it. it was like the Lord literally spoke to me like,
Yeah.
you got to do it now. No turning back.
Yeah.
You know, and I asked the question about, was she playing, you know, hard to get? And she said she was kind of weighing things out, because my mother would always say, she would always say, if you play hard to get, you don't get got. And, but obviously, after 3 times, and then there was a 4th time, he certainly knew, Denny, knew what he wanted. Mm-hmm. Is that, you think that's accurate?
It definitely sounds like that. But it didn't sound like she was rejecting him. She just wasn't ready for that. I'm here, but I'm just not ready to go into the marriage yet. But I want to continue to engage with you, build with you, restore, the relationship, and just continue to build on that. And we'll get there when the time is right.
Yeah.
So, Debbie, 8 years in, how do you two deal with problems?
I have learned over this time, because it's not just 8 years, it's even the 4 years before.
Yeah, so
dating,
12,
right?
yeah.
So I have learned my friend, and the personality and how we engage with things that may be difficult to have conversations about. So I have also grown in patience, because I'm a little bit more, and that's funny because now it's switched, right? I want things right away, like let's do this, blah, 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 blah. And he's kind of like, hold it. In the beginning, he was like, come on, and I was like, hold it. So and now I'm learning more patience. So even when we have some discord or disagreements, I kind of sit back and say, okay, let's hold on to your patience a little bit and let him catch up to where you are, because my mind is moving and I want to solve all the problems, and he wants to think about it a little bit. So, or he needs time to process whatever my complaint or fussiness.
Intense fellowship.
Intense, is that
Well, fussiness
is that a metaphor for something?
Intense fellowship.
Yeah, we're not big on
No,
arguing.
we don't.
Yeah.
But I've learned just as much, and to whereas I used to hold things, Harold, intently, because I'm like, I got it. That whole man thing, I got it. My job is to be, instead of talking it out. Now I've become more of a communicator, in a sense where I can share unequivocally, without she thinking this or she thinking that. Because I'm thinking, if I hold it and I just act upon it, it'll be fine. That's not a marriage. And she's taught me that. And when we would sit and talk about some things that I know, I'm like, boy, first of all, how long is this going to be? But I graduated to the point where it's now, when she said, hey, let's talk, we need to go, okay. I'm in the back of my mind, subliminally, I'm like, but I'm like, okay, all right. Because I know it's going to help both of us.
So here's the question. If you two had met at the time of your first marriages, do you believe that you two, and this is certainly hypothetical, do you believe that you two would have married each other then, or did you have to wait until now? Did I hit on something?
No, because it's something we talk about all the time.
Yeah. Really?
Wish we were together then, early on in life.
Way back.
But God's timing.
There's that
timing.
duet again.
Right.
You have to wait on God's timing.
And that's why when we decided to get married, that's why we stopped everything and went into prayer. Because if we felt, if that's not the foundation, we don't need to be doing this. And we're not going to be doing this willy-nilly and sidestepping Because first of all, we're older. We got more years behind us than ahead of us. So I wanted to make sure everything was intact. In terms of how we approach each other, how we deal with each other, how we talk to and not at each other.
What's the difference in your mind?
When you're talking at a person, it's almost like in competition. You know, it's the I, me, my, mine syndrome.
Yeah.
No.
And we established the we, us mindset. So when I talk to her or she talks to me, we talk to each other and not at each other, because that's no.
You know, Bashae, you gave Michael and Gabrielle some advice. What advice would you give them? And would it be different than the advice that you gave Michael and Gabrielle?
I think it's universal. I think despite the years, there's always some nuggets and some cheat codes that you give to couples, right? I see couples who come in and been married 30 years, couples who are engaged. But the cheat code that I want to give y'all is to separate the problem from each other, right? When couples sit in front of me, I grab the problem, we're talking at the problem. You guys are sitting beside each other. So instead of personalizing it, let's put the problem on the table and says, when you do this, this makes me feel. What just happened made me feel this way. It's not you, it's what happened, it's what you did. So you don't personalize it and automatically get defensive, dysregulated, and then you can't really hear the partner, because when you're dysregulated, all you're trying to do is win. So separate the problem from each other.
Thank you.
We said in the beginning of this conversation, we were talking about, you know, black love, and so I'll ask you, Debbie, how would you define black love in the context of this marriage? Makes your head hurt, don't it?
It's, how would I define it? For me, it's wonderful. I am, you know, God sent, and just, it's wonderful. It's a joy. And I'm happy to have a black gentleman on my arm. I'm very proud of him.
The same question, Denny. In the context of this marriage to this woman who thinks that you are absolutely the best thing since sliced bread,
Yes.
the cat's meow. You know, how would you define black love in the context of your marriage?
Rewarding. Rewarding because person's dream of wanting to have the perfect mate, having someone of compatibility, of great character, someone that actually cares about you, someone that likes you. She checked all the boxes. That is the foundation to me of black love. Because if you don't have that as a foundation, and a genuine friendship, if you don't have that, you can't escalate. You can't go from baritone bass to first soprano. You can't. She's everything to me.
Yes.
She is. And I wake up every morning, even when I know it's like gonna be a long day in the office, when she gives me that, because she's an early riser. I'm not so much as that. It takes me a couple of minutes, but once I hear the good morning, dear, good morning, lovey, because we call each other lovey.
Okay.
And all. And when I hear that, I'm good. Everything else is secondary. We leave out, be careful. We'll check in sometime if we have throughout the day. The assignment is to come back home. You have to come home.
Debbie, what advice would you give to mature women who are looking to have the blessing that you have, but are struggling with that?
I would say don't put a whole lot of pressure on all of these things we have on our list. Just really get to know the person and look for a friend. Foundational. If you don't want to be their friend, then you definitely don't want to be their mate.
I love it.
Yes.
So, same question for you.
For the men, take your time.
What do you mean?
Take your time.
Ask 4 times.
Take your time and find someone of, and this word has been used quite a bit, this is compatibility. Because you don't want to have someone just because of exterior and this and all, because that'll fade away. When we're 70, 80 years old and we're gumming, you know, and sitting around, I want to be able to, as much as a touch, Harold,
Yeah.
will edify me in every way, shape, and form. So I just encourage the men out there, take your time and do it right, like I did.
I think that's a great place to end this conversation. Again, congratulations on 8 years.
Thank you so much.
Hang in there, because she's big personality.
That's right.
Yeah. You know, thank you again so much. I'm so
Thank
glad
you
that
so
you are.
much.
Bashae Williams, always good to talk to you, brother.
Always good to be
Looking forward
here.
to talking to you again.
Of course.
That is the Daily Drum for this Wednesday, February 14th, Valentine's Day. I'm Harold Fisher. Good night.
This program was produced by WHUT and made possible by contributions from viewers like you. For more information on this program or any other program, please visit our website at WHUT.org. Thank you.